Welcome to the Consciously Connected podcast.
We are so excited to be joining you on voice and video today. We're
Mhm.
going to be diving into a topic that is very true to our heart, something that we've had to awaken to, navigate, and move through very powerfully in our own relationship, but also within our own selves. And how that, kind of manifested not only in our relationship, but in most areas of our life. And
Yes.
so but we're gonna like really focus on how this impacts your intimate relationship, and that is being the more conscious or the more one who's done more work or who the one who understands or is more spiritually awakened or whatever you want to specifically resonate with. But when you are the more conscious one in your relationship and you're
Yeah.
trying to get your partner or you're trying to get your partner to see the things you see, to grow the way you want to grow, to understand life through the lens that you understand it, to be on the same frequency as you are, and how that can actually impact you, your relationship, your connection, and so many things we're going to talk about today. So,
Man, this is going to be maybe 12 hours long
we could do
because
a whole course on
I
this for
have so
sure.
many stories about this, all of this, and just the thoughts behind it, and realizing like who we had to become in order to truly the relationship we wanted, and really what we had to move through because I think this happens so often where one person is way above. And they're not like purposely above or they're not intentionally putting themselves there. They just they're far further along in the walk. And they've done a little bit more work. They started a little earlier. And but the dynamic it creates is a super interesting dynamic when it comes into a relationship.
Yeah. And it's funny, we told a story on our last podcast about like when we first like were introduced and I was told about you and I went on your
Hmm.
Facebook and did a little stalky on your Facebook and saw the things you were posting and I was like, "Man, this guy is like super high conscious. Like he's done the work, like he gets it, like he's speaking my language." And and you obviously like resonated with a lot of the content.
Yeah.
You understood it. You had read a lot, you had studied a lot, and even me at that point, like I had done a ton of personal growth and development. I had had a spiritual awakening. I had grown so much in who I was in a lot of ways consciously, but there was still so much that I
Hmm.
didn't quite grasp or that I hadn't fully embodied in that work. And so we're going to dive into a little bit of all of that, but when we came into this relationship, it was like this idea of like, okay, I've met like this match. I feel like he's on the same page. I feel like we have the same language. He understands me, like the things that I'm into, he's into, like reading, personal growth and development, and, you know, being someone who's growth driven and educated in these topics. And so I was like, okay, like I've manifested the man. And, we had a pretty rude awakening pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's doing the work or reading the work, which I know
Mhm.
a lot of my guys I come across, they're doing the work, and a lot of their work is consumption work. They
Yep.
consume a lot, which is great. And I consume. I mean, I'm a savage at consumption.
Yeah.
And what I realize is like the consumption did nothing for the man except for gave me a lot of thoughts, a lot of ideas, but execution and having somebody that held me accountable to the idea really changed my life.
Yeah, and it was also this space where it was like and a lot of, the women I work with are in the same and I was the same, where it's like, you read a lot, you understand a lot, you awaken
Yeah.
to a lot, you can talk about a lot, you understand things, you can see things. And even myself, like I know I talked about this before, but there was this kind of this spiritual gift I didn't fully understand too, where like I could see people and I could see things that other people couldn't see. And so I was like, in my mind, it was like I always said I was like, I'm more hyper vigilant. But it was like this space where I had a little bit more of intuitive gifts than I deeply understood. and I couldn't really put them into words, but I would see things, but then I would process it through all this knowledge that I had accumulated.
Yes.
But there was this space where I hadn't fully embodied and owned all that I had consumed, all that I had learned, all that I understood even about myself. And so there's a space when you're becoming conscious where you gain more consciousness, where you can see things more clearly, where you see things more differently. You're on a different frequency level. Um you've done more quote unquote work.
Mhm.
And sometimes I find that with a lot of people that we, coach and that I coach, and then even ourselves back when, is there's one person that, kind of is driving that ship a little bit and they long for and wish their partner would get on board or understand them more or do the work with them or be driven to fix things the way that they're driven to fix things.
Yes.
And when they're not, or it feels like they're not as interested, or it feels like they're not on the same level of frequency, then it's like there's this energy that takes over in their relationship. And I think us diving into what this looks like is going to resonate with a lot of people that don't understand actually that this is the dynamic that's going on.
Yes. 100%. I think it's important a lot of times because I think we're just operating. People just get busy moving around in their life and they notice things, but they don't know. It's like they don't know what they're noticing until somebody points it out. Like, oh, that is what I'm seeing. But now what do I do about it? And I think this podcast is going to help out a lot with that.
Yeah, because it's like this energy where you could sit here and be saying, or you may think, like, I'm just not as connective as I wanna be. I don't feel like I have the, like, deep connection, the emotional intimacy that I want in my relationship, or I'm doing a lot of work to try and heal myself and heal our relationship or heal generational trauma or heal our line where we can have better and we can do better with ourselves, with
Yeah.
our kids. And, going into that work and, being a seeker of higher states of consciousness, being seekers of more spiritual connection, being a seeker of more personal growth and development, you're naturally going to, become more conscious of things because of the consumption of information that you resonate with.
Yeah.
But then there becomes this energy where, and what happened in our relationship was I was more conscious than you, or I had more growth than you, and what was causing more of the disconnect than actually the difference in frequencies or consciousness levels that we were operating on became the wound matches through that, became
Yeah.
the hamster wheel that we chase each other on through that dynamic, became us actually mirroring the deeper wounds that we had in that. And I thought back then, I didn't really recognize where it was a wound match to my wounds
Yes.
specifically as well. It was more so I just needed to fix you, or you had potential, or I was going to get you to, like, rise and all these things. And I think we have a lot of, women that do a lot of work because us
Mhm.
females are more seekers of that in some ways.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, the feminine, when pleasures are removed from the feminine, they seek. Right? They go looking like, all right, why does this don't feel good anymore? I need to look at this. I need to fix this. I need to make adjustments here. Men, on the other hand, like we're like, let's burn this motherfucker down and then figure it out. We wait
yeah.
until the house is on fire, smoke's killing everybody. Like, okay, maybe I need to do something about this. It's a
Yeah.
very interesting like dynamic, like dichotomy between the two.
Yeah. But it's like that space where it's like, we always see it where it's like the woman's trying to fix, or they're falling in love with potential, or they're trying to rise their partners so that they feel they can trust the masculine energy, and trying to do the work and getting energy healings and doing, you know, several different coaches and courses trying to grow themselves to get the outcomes and desires they want, not only in relationship, but in business and purpose and health, and like seeking, fixing even themselves so that then they can have what they desire. And so it's like not only a fixing energy of self, which winds up being actually a lack energy, that there's something wrong with us,
Yes.
there's something broken in us. We have to continuously seek the work. But it's not only that, it's also then projecting that and then trying to fix our partner, trying to activate them, trying to get them to do the growth, pulling them into courses, pulling them into the work that you're doing as a light worker. If you're, in business and you're a service provider, you're trying to pull them into that world, because then you think that, and this is all unconscious to a degree, but you think that if they can get involved in becoming more conscious, more growth, then there will be a deeper connection.
Yeah, it's like this level of, in the way we were talking about, it's like this, it's a subtle superiority
Yeah.
where, like, you've acquired this level of knowledge and understanding and consciousness, and it's higher than the person you're relating to. And it's not like you hold yourself higher than, but you see the answers to the problems. And you just want to, it's almost teach, coach, would you
Guide.
make your partner your project almost, where I'm going to show you the way.
Hmm.
And it automatically creates this disconnect in the relationship because you're no longer like equally yoked in the process. You're like one's above the other. And you're not even consciously doing it to yourself. Like you're not trying to make yourself superior, but the person you're relating to takes that role. They gotta lower themselves because they see you higher. And it takes on this dynamic where the man or the woman, but a lot of cases it is the man feels not that he's the word would be not good enough, but it's like, man, she's fucking awesome, and I gotta step up my game to stay in here, right? I'm hitting. You always hear this phrase like, I'm batting out of my league, right? But it's not that. It's just you who you are attracted that. You may need to increase who you are.
And that's, comes back down to the whole point that we get into around this. Yes, it is a very subtle
Very.
superiority. And sometimes it's not as subtle. Like sometimes it's very blatant.
Yeah.
Sometimes
My
it's
favorite
very
my
blatant.
favorite fucking phrase on the planet, "I know you better than you know yourself, Jim." And I'm like, "Yeah." Shit. My favorite phrase ever.
I don't know if that was your favorite phrase, but it's definitely one that I've used over the
Yeah.
years, and it's coming from multiple different places, right? But
Yeah.
it's like it's coming from more consciousness. It's coming from the intuitive gift of being able to see you move and see you operate in ways that you weren't seeing yourself. It's understanding things, energy, like ways of being, shadow movements, all the things. I can see you moving. And then I bring it forward, and it's like there's an immediate defense or immediate like fight against it. And sometimes I would take it as he's just like being shady, or he's trying to hide something, or and it was a subtle like not trusting you. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of times as we went along that it came forward that it wasn't necessarily something you were doing on purpose or that you weren't seeing yourself, but it was just so unconscious and something that you just weren't there yet to be
Yeah.
able to fully see yourself. You weren't as self aware or as conscious of your own self to be able to see what I was even saying. And so your truth and your fight to me was your truth, it was your reality.
Yeah.
And so I then got to a place where I would say, like, I can just see you better than you see yourself, or I just know you better than you
Yeah.
know yourself.
Yeah.
And that's actually like even more disconnecting or creating this, more than subtle
Yeah.
superiority. And although some of it was true, there was a big mishap that I was missing. And that kind of goes into this like mirror of wounds that I wasn't 100% seeing myself. So I was like, "Oh, I'm just ascended and I'm more conscious than you and I can see you and all these things." And I wasn't doing it from like an
No.
ego place. I
No,
don't think
not at all.
any woman does this or anybody who's in this position does this from like, "Oh, I want to be better than or I want to be higher than," or an ego place. It's more coming from a place of I want to trust. And the women wants
Mm.
to feel safety with the masculine energy. And if she sees him moving in a way that she can see intuitively that is not as higher consciousness or isn't in his total like masculine leadership. It's like immediate activation of a call out. And it's immediately like, okay, there's some level in our bodies that we don't trust because we can't trust you if you can't even see you, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And so I wound up, you know, using that term a lot, which then ultimately still kept us in this wound match that I wasn't fully realizing I was participating in the moment, but it was this space where I was, in that wounded masculine energy still. I had layers to heal around being in control, like protecting myself from safety, like still not trusting the masculine energy, still moving in a way where if I had energetic control, and we don't ever want to like fully admit this because it's not like at the heart level what we're meaning to be or do, and we
Yes.
don't even understand it, and it's not like anything that I hold shame in at this point, but it might be something if you're listening that maybe you've recognized in yourself or maybe you haven't but you are now.
Mhm.
But it's like this space where it's like not shame that you've been some horrible person, but it's more so like I was just moving unconsciously to protect
Mhm.
myself, and in that protection, was constantly moving to try and get you to see what I was seeing so that then I could trust you.
Yeah.
And
You were
there was a
trying to get
disconnect.
me you were trying to get me to a level where you felt safe. And it was like and at the time also you were emotionally micromanaging yourself
Mhm.
to the point where you wouldn't let me feel you. You wouldn't let me see your emotions. You wouldn't let me
Mhm.
know where you were. You just wanted me to be somewhere so you felt okay.
Mhm.
And you would call out, point out, show up. I see you. You don't see this. You need to see this. You're not capable. You need to be able. All these words and phrases for me, with my own wounded ass. I was like, shit, I don't know if I can climb this ladder right every day. Like I got to
Well,
climb this ladder.
it fed into your core wound. These were
Yeah.
just mirrors to each other because your core wound was I'm not good enough. I'll never be
Yeah.
enough. I have
Yeah.
to constantly climb the ladder to get,
Yeah.
to be enough. So,
Yeah. And I think we both had a lot of lessons to learn about ourselves. Obviously, I was oblivious to all this shit, like when it came
mhm,
to my not good enough wound and all that kind of stuff. And I think you were oblivious to the idea that you were trying to control everything for safety. And then you started awaken to that. And it wasn't you weren't doing it from some malicious thing like I need to be in control. It was, hey, I just want to feel safe with a man.
mhm,
And I just want to feel like I can open my heart. I want to feel like I can trust him that he can hold me when I'm falling apart. And in your mind, you had a vision of what that guy looked like. And so you were always maneuvering in that direction. Like, how can I get it to match the vision? Because if it
yeah,
gets there, then I'm going to have the thing and I can open my heart finally and be in a relationship that I desire.
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, and this also like it also becomes a problem not just in intimate relationships, but in friendships or with
Yes.
family. But obviously, with the intimate relationship is the greatest mirror of this. But it's like I got to a place where I couldn't trust anyone because I didn't trust their consciousness level. And I didn't trust that, I could fully be me without triggering somebody. And therefore, then them seeing me in a light that I felt misunderstood in, or
Mhm.
seeing me in a light that I knew that my heart wasn't truly. And for you, it was more opening my heart completely and allowing myself to give you that trust, that safety, or me feeling safe to do that, and you not completely like destroying me, And
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's where a lot of women are. Like we build up this protective wall and barrier so that we don't feel the pain of what the masculine can can cause, I guess you could say, in the ways because we have experienced either we have a lot of evidence of pain, or there's this space where we were too much, or we weren't understood, or we weren't heard. And those are the
Yeah.
deepest needs and cores of the feminine. And so I would
And
come to you and I would say things, but I wouldn't trust that you could really lead yourself in them or see them
yeah.
yourself. And so then it was like, okay, I need to, and I wasn't consciously thinking of this, but it was like this energy of if I can awaken him and raise him to be the more conscious man, to be more in his masculine leadership, to do this, then I will eventually feel safe enough to have the relationship that I
Yeah.
desire.
And I didn't, and just like you, I never felt safe with people in general to be myself. Right. And so when I entered this our relationship, I mean, I love you, but I didn't trust it. Like I didn't feel safe because
Yeah.
who I was wasn't good enough. And who I was in my mind, right? And so I got stuck in a perpetual cycle of trying to do what was the right thing or do the right guy, the right man
Hmm.
actions, the right thing. But I never could just be me and feel okay. Like I didn't know, I never understood until like I would say a year or two in our relationship. I never understood what it meant to not just do perform for love,
Well, and the
you
thing
know?
is, like, you can say, like, oh, I didn't trust you or you weren't safe to me. And now it can be like, okay, obviously you're a very safe person and you were back then
Yeah.
and your heart was. But because of the wound mirror back then, I wasn't a safe person, essentially. Because
Yeah.
everything that I was saying, everything that I was operating from my own space was not safe for where you really needed to grow. And even like becoming the awakener or trying to awaken someone else, or what we would call a fixer or pouring into potential, and
Yes.
that kind of energy does create that lack of safety because I was on a pedestal and I was higher than you, and not only
Yes.
energetically, but then obviously that completely destroys a little bit of polarity. So our wounds were matching, but our whole feminine and our whole masculine energy was not necessarily coming online. And so I wasn't a safe space because as much as I knew I was safe and knew knew who I was, and you
Yeah.
felt who I was on a soul level, we still weren't operating from those versions of ourselves.
That's it.
And
Like
so,
you knew me. Like you could see me better than I could see myself. I could see you better than how you were operating. Like I knew your
mhm,
heart, just couldn't. I didn't have access to it. You knew who I was. You just didn't have access to it. But it was like we had this intuitive knowing, like past this bullshit is something great.
yeah.
We just tried to peel back a lot of bullshit.
Well, and that's, it's something so unconscious that we don't 100% see that's happening. And this is where you can go into, like, a lot of women go into more mothering energy or more,
Yeah.
that energy of like, I'm right and you're wrong, or I got the best
Mhm.
answers and you don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and and
Yes.
therefore, like, there's a break in the core needs because at that point, then you didn't feel like the core masculine need, you didn't feel of desire, respect, appreciation, trust, like
Love.
me being into
That's
my, yeah, or me being in my feminine energy and like actually
Mhm.
like lean back and in flow and allowing you to be the masculine leader of the relationship. And I didn't feel seen or heard or understood or even chosen. And I definitely didn't feel safe and secure. And that's like at the core of the feminine. And so
Yeah.
we were fighting each other on these things.
Yeah. We were
And
fighting to just be loved. We were fighting each other to just be loved when either both of us want to be loved. And we were desiring love at the highest level. We were
mhm.
just afraid.
Yeah, and
We were
it
so
created
scared of it. Yeah.
it created this like resentment loop, this like
Yeah.
hidden, like,
Yeah.
I always call it like chasing each other on the hamster
No,
wheel.
the hamster wheel, baby. Yes, that's what it was. It was like we could not stop. But I remember when it did stop, but up until that point, it was it was like every 6 months, then every 5 months, then every 4 months, then every 3 months, then it was like every 2 weeks. We were fucking ripping our shit apart every 2 weeks for a moment there, and then you're like, "Alright, this shit's gotta end now, like, I'm getting off this motherfucker."
Yeah, I've said that a few times. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like one of those things though, it's like you start this hamster wheel and you feel like, okay, I just want him to be more conscious. I want him to be, you know, where I'm at. And at the end of the day, it's so that you can feel true love, connection, and your needs being met.
Mhm.
And something that I had to come into deep realization of, and I always refer to this in multiple different facets, but I had to come to the realization of I was trying to be a boat navigator, not a lighthouse. And
Yes.
in that energy, I was taking everything I was learning, all the courses, all the energy work, all the identity work, all the personal growth and development work, like everything I was doing, and I was then being your teacher or trying to be your awakener,
Yes.
and through that wound up putting a lot of disconnection in the relationship and a lot of disempowering energy into you, of course, in that
Mhm.
space. And so it was like
And
unintentional, but it was something that I was unconsciously doing. And so
Mhm.
when I really like saw myself and I was like, I'm being a boat navigator trying to navigate his ship to get to the light so that then I feel in my power enough to shine, that I feel in my
Yeah.
power enough to be open, that I feel in my power enough to be my own energy source. And
Mhm.
so I was out here trying to navigate your ship and get you to a place when in reality, if I had really looked at my own lighthouse, I would see that there was a lot of holes and there was a lot of like outlets that were plugged in, but I wasn't actually like embodied in
Yeah.
a lot of the things I was even trying to get you to see or do. It was like I was so conscious of it all. Up here, I could see it all, but there wasn't, on some levels, a lot of leadership because I was still self-abandoning. I was still trying to fix. I was still trying to go out and get someone else to be. I still wasn't seeing where I was a contributor to the identity match in the mirror of what was going on.
Mhm.
I still was just outwardly trying to move, and I wasn't going in and seeing where I wasn't actually leading myself in the whole process. I wasn't actually seeing myself in the whole process, and I was a big contributor to the
Mhm.
disconnect that we were feeling.
And honestly too, and this is a big guy thing. I know I think some I've seen some women do this to an extent, but this is more of a guy scenario that I've seen, and I've been doing this for 8 years. But is a woman like you? I mean, look at your fine ass, right? Um,
Oh,
and to be as conscious as you are, and as smart as you are, and as your heart led as you are, and you're driven as you are, like a guy like who I was at that point and who I was in my own development, like I put you so high up in the pedestal
mhm,
that I was breaking the dynamic of the relationship and I was breaking the polarity because I was constantly saw you as something I had to work toward instead of something that can work with. And so I was
mhm.
always at the bottom of a mountain every day. I'm like, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta do that, I gotta do that. I gotta get my P's and Q's, I gotta dot the I's, cross the T's, I gotta make sure everything's good. And I'm walking around here tight as fuck all the time, just like, oh God. And am I gonna get to the top of the mountain? Then immediately you're like, God, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, oh shit, what's wrong with me? What the fuck is wrong with me? But we got to that point where you were doing your own thing to break polarity in the dynamic. I was doing my own thing to break the polarity in the dynamic. And we eventually are like, all right, how do we get this ship moving in the right direction?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, polarity was off, and when you would obviously operate that way, it would just recontribute to the issue where I was like, he's not
Yeah.
solid in who he is. He doesn't see himself. He's dancing for approval. He's trying to do the things. He's still not good enough. Like,
I'll be
it was
dancing it
like,
up around here.
It's like one of those things where it's like you were still doing all the things that then reiterated me being able to see you. And I'm like, this isn't authentic. Like, you're not being real. Like, you're just
Yeah.
now like trying to put on a show. And it wasn't like you were trying to put on a show, but you were trying to operate. Like, you would always say, like, I feel like I'm chasing ghosts. Like, you see something in me and you call it out, and then I don't feel that way or I don't see it. So
Yeah.
then I'm trying to like see what you're seeing in myself. And then I'm dancing to try and do the work or show that I'm like doing what you're saying that you see in me.
Yeah. But I
And
mean, that happens with 2 levels of consciousness, right? Like, you were so like, you could see things move so fast at that point where I might see it move very slow.
yeah.
And you're like, "Yeah, I'm seeing this, this, and this," and I'm like, "Alright, I need to look for that." And I didn't even know what I was looking at. Like you said, just chasing guests, and in my head, "Alright, I need to be conscious of these things." And I'm like, "I don't even know what these things are in my head." So I'm just sitting there going, "Yeah, maybe. Is this it? I don't know." Read some books, watch some YouTubes, maybe I'll figure it out. And every day I was like, "I can find out. I'm just gonna do it,
And
see
I,
what
I
happens."
think I think one of the downfalls of being the more conscious one in the relationship is like, obviously we can see things, we call out things, and we deeply, as a woman too, have that deep intuition and intuitiveness about us that then it's like you don't necessarily consciously think about the fact that this person actually can't see what I'm seeing. And like, so I'm sitting here holding him accountable to a bar that he ain't even freaking can't even see. Like,
I
or
remember you telling me that, you're like and you were like, "Can you explain what you're seeing?" And I explained, you go, "Oh, you don't see it." I'm like, "I only see what I see." And you're like, "No, you don't see what I'm saying." "No, I don't. I see it at all."
yeah, and like that was kind of the start of the unravel of it all because I
Yeah,
started to recognize like I was holding you with love, with trust, with respect, with so many of the things that you deeply need as a masculine man or to be more empowered in your masculine energy. I was holding you accountable and treating you so when you weren't, coming to that place or when you weren't operating from my level. It was
yeah,
like I was holding you accountable to someone that you were not. I was holding you accountable to a bar that was unattainable because it wasn't something you could see yet. I
yeah,
was holding you accountable to be an awakened man because I became the awakener, not like your own sovereignty and your own soul. And
yeah,
so I was like, you know, being the person constantly without actually just seeing you for who you truly were, loving you for who you truly were, understanding you more about where you truly were. And some of that was because I was just unconscious to it.
yeah,
But other parts of it was because obviously my own shit. And
yeah,
so when I started healing my own wound around that was a wound match for this, and really stopped being a boat navigator and came into my own lighthouse energy and started healing the parts of myself that didn't need control, that didn't need to close and protect myself to be safe because I had me and I anchored more into self-trust of who I was and
mhm,
I led myself more at a higher standard. I was working on my own side of the street. I was fueling my own lighthouse and I just could shine and I could just allow and I could just love and I could just see you for who you were and love you for who you were without needing you to be something, but also still recognizing my role as an awakened feminine and
mhm,
the role of the awakened feminine is to rise the masculine man to a degree, is to pour into support the rise of the masculine
mhm.
man because a woman
Absolutely.
is more intuitive. A woman is
Yeah,
more tuned in, is more connected, typically is a little bit more conscious in ways. And so it was a fine line of, not or holding a bar for you to rise to and having the expectations that you were. and how I communicated that was everything. Like, and that
Yeah.
really changed everything for us was
Yeah, and I think
how
the
I communicated it.
communication, yeah, 100%. And I think it reminds me of this quote that Anthony DeMello said one time, say, "You can't teach you have to stop trying to teach pigs to sing, because 'cause you'll just piss the pig off and frustrate yourself." And I think this benefited us in coaching too, like, and running our business where, yeah, we see things move a lot faster in every one of our clients, but that doesn't mean they're ready to see it. That doesn't mean that they should be held to the standard of seeing it. We gotta see them where they are and then rise them. And that's where you came to back to me and brought that to me, like, "I see you, love you. I I wanna do this, want you to go here. I'm not gonna force you there." Or it was what, 9 years ago, right? You're like, "Hey, I love you more than anything. I wanna do this life to the end of the earth for you." But where we do it the way we're doing it right now, it's not working. And I wanna go this way. You're kinda wanting to stay here, and I wanna free you to decide. You can go this way or you can come and we can do this together.
Well,
And
yeah, and obviously this process started, I would say, is 8 years ago, really.
yeah.
But even to last year, there was different layers of it, and
Yeah.
how I approached it and how I communicated it that I wasn't fully seeing was still disempowering the situation. And so as we learned or as I learned, obviously doing all my own work in that space and healing a lot of that. And I don't even like to use the word healing. It's like unbecoming the patterns and programming that I was operating from unconsciously, but
Mhm.
also seeing shadows that I was operating from unconsciously and
Mhm.
being able to move different in my own self, becoming more of a self led powerful, intuitive, conscious woman that led myself and saw myself in it, and how you were just a reflection to some things that were still going on with me. Where I was still a match for it.
Mhm.
And I think this is where a lot of women, specifically, ideal clients of mine or clients of mine who have done a lot of the work and who are more conscious and who see themselves and they feel very self aware and they feel like they know a lot of the times it was just like myself where you do, but it's a lot of consciousness with some layers of not embodied self leadership, self
Yeah.
trust, self unbecoming of the ways that you're still a wound match for it. So it's like if you're in this dynamic and you're in this situation, you can sit here and say like, oh, I'm, in this dynamic and it's their problem and they need to rise and they need to grow and all these things. But if you're not actually looking at what you're a match for and what you continue to be a match for and what you continue to like allow yourself to be in, and you're not looking at your side of the street of it, you're missing a large piece of the actual embodied growth that needs to be implemented because you can be conscious all day. But if you
Mhm.
don't actually like take the consciousness and see yourself in the shadow and lead yourself in these things, you will see it continue to play out. And you can sit there and ask yourself, like, I should know better, or I've done the work on this, or why is this still showing up? And it's his problem, or he needs to rise, or he needs to become more conscious. And that's not to say that your work didn't contribute a lot to
Yes.
the ascension of our relationship. But I had to deeply understand and see where I was still very much a match for it, even though I was putting it outside of myself.
Agree. I think like this is a huge I don't know if it's a problem, but it's definitely something I see a lot talking to men is obviously women tend to hold men accountable a lot. Like we're accountable for this and that and this and that and what we're not and what we are and what we're not doing and what we said we were going to do. There's a lot of accountability held in there.
Mhm.
When the tables get flipped, it's a real hard scenario because a lot of times women don't like to take accountability because they put that responsibility on men. Like our life looks like this because of you. Our relationship's off because of this. I don't want to have sex with you because you're being this. I don't want to do this because you're doing this. And it's always because, because. And I think what changed in our relationship, like you had never felt any like way, shape, or form about, hey, I see this. This is a problem. Hey, I'm not gonna deal with this. We gotta fucking fix this. I was always, oh fuck, can I tell her? Can I say something to her that's not good, not positive? And then when I gained my voice in this relationship, you gain respect in me. You gain
Yeah.
trust in me. You've never been one not to hold yourself accountable. I tell everybody in the world, everybody asks me, my clients do, like, what's the most powerful thing your wife does? Is like I say she looks in the mirror at everything. Like she's always looking at
Hmm.
herself. She doesn't blame anybody for shit. Which is the wildest thing because I was a blamer for everything. So that freaked me out all the time. You're like, oh, I need to go think about this. I'm gonna go look at myself. And I'm like, no, let's fight. Let's fight for real. And so, but now I'm the same way. Like, okay, I need to be responsible. Like, this is me. I'm saying shit. Now, like, even when I'm reactive or I'll defend myself, I'm like, all right, here's why I'm defending myself. It ain't about you. I got this fucking stupid shit going on in my head. And you're like, oh, I knew it. I just wanted to see if you would all hold up to it. And so, but I think,
Well, it's like I became somebody that didn't need you to own up to it. I could see it, but I more led myself. And when we lead ourselves, we become then somebody that ignites rise granted, like sometimes you're going to trigger the fuck out of people, right? But it's like you're either going to trigger someone or activate somebody to rise, and either way has to be okay. But I wound up, I would be able to see you, but then I also realized there was certain things that I could communicate differently or
yeah,
come at you differently, that allowed for there to be less defensiveness
yes,
and allowed for there to be more safe space. Because when I was approaching it before that, it was like, I see you, like this is and it wound up being a very demeaning, emasculating energy.
mhm.
And
I remember telling you, I was like, I think you're just looking too hard because I don't even see it. Yeah. You were like, yeah, I'm looking at everything. And I'm like, I can see. I can see
like
it
it's like
all.
I can't shut it off. Like
I
I mean,
know.
I just see you. Um and that was, that was a huge shift, is like obviously me coming into myself and the own things I had to become, seeing where I was still a match for it all.
Yeah.
But then even more so than that, um when I saw you and when I was more conscious of the situation or whatever, it was like recognizing, like, okay, I don't need to protect myself right now. Like, I don't need him to see and understand me if I'm not willing to actually present it to him in a way that is not me protecting myself or me trying
Yes.
to get you or fight you on something. It was more so like, hey, I need you to listen to me. Can we sit down and talk? I need you to listen to me truly with your ears, not your triggers. I
Yeah.
need you to be open to see, because when you were and you didn't like go into this defensiveness, and I didn't approach it from this energy of like, you're a dumbass, like,
Basically. That was so real. That's real.
but when I approached it from an energy of like, hey, you probably don't see this and you're probably not even seeing it from the lens that I'm seeing it. And I just really want you to listen and hear me out and see how I'm seeing this. And then we can talk about it. Or
Yeah.
like
Mm,
sometimes I would even be conscious of my own self and I would say, hey, I need to express something that I want you to just listen to, as if you have nothing to do with it and you're just listening to like your sister bitch about her boyfriend. Or
yeah.
like, I need for you to hear
Uh,
me without you having an attachment to it, because right now it really is about my feelings and it is about my experience, and it might not actually have anything to do with you or something you're doing
mhm.
wrong, but I just need for you to see what I'm experiencing so that we can consciously talk about it and move through it. And that energy, just allowed you to go into your masculine leadership, go into your
Mhm.
grounded, like, space where you could just truly listen and hear me, which is the core of the feminine need, right?
Mhm.
And then try and understand me, not through a wounded lens, not through a defensive lens, but just from a lens where you could just see me and then we could talk about the real instead
Yeah.
of me coming and lashing at you, you getting defensive, us like then going back and forth at each other because I'm pissed because you can't see what I see and you can't move the way that I feel like you should move so I can trust you. And you think I'm being a ball busting bitch and you think I'm being all these like, and this whole chaos, like we would fight. And, and that was all just literally and legitly unconscious relating. And
Yeah. I mean, now and now it's even evolved, which I love. Because as much as, and I tell this for all the women all the time, as much as women want, you want your man to be curious about you, like what you're feeling, why you're feeling that way. That men want that too. And now
mhm,
you come to me, you're like, I just want to, I want to know your thoughts about something. And you'll just put a question out there. And you just let me talk here. And for you, it just gives you so much clarity. You're like, oh, he don't even, oh, he does see it. Oh, he don't even see shit. So like, okay, he's just living his life. And it's like almost like, man, I wish I could just have ignorance is bliss sometimes too. But I'll say things and you're like, oh, you haven't thought about this? No, man, I thought about it at all. You're like, okay, cool. And you just kind of let it move. But before it was like, you haven't thought about this? I mean, do you understand by not thinking about this what could happen and everything that could affect me? And I'm like, no, because my brain is not wired in that direction. But you have and you're like super curious. Like you'll ask me questions,
mhm.
and you're like, and you try to understand why I think the way I think. And even and even to the point where sometimes you're like, I just don't understand why you think that way, but the way you think, and that's okay. And I'm like, because well,
I'm
I'll
like,
do things and
okay, whatever.
you don't see this? I'm like, "See what?" You're like, "Okay, that's all I need to know."
Well, and it's one of those things too where it's like I had to almost like love and respect you because you have gifts that I don't. You have a way of being that I don't. And although
Mhm.
in the beginning it was like I needed you to be more like me in the way that you moved and operated because that made me feel more safe that you were going to be able
Yeah.
to handle a situation or move in a way that I felt was respectable or move in a way that felt trustworthy. Then it was like, well, actually, you have a different gift that I could tend to learn from or I could tend to grow from. And even though it might be a little more chaotic, it might be a little bit more
Who, me?
messy than than I it was like I needed some of that. Like I needed to be able to be a little more messy. I needed to be a little bit more like in my feels without
Mhm.
bypassing with consciousness. I needed to be a little more um expressive in certain ways without it being so like self-aware and polished or like
Yeah.
coming from so much of my head versus my heart. Like I needed to learn some of those things. And so some of the ways that you would operate, I started just getting really inquisitive about. One, just to be able to understand. And I think if you're listening to this, one of the most powerful things you can do in relating is always just be so super inquisitive because I can guarantee you that 90%, if not more, of your conflicts and the way that you're moving in your intimate relationships is two people just trying to get their needs met. And you have two people that just want love and want to like make it work and want to be seen a certain way and we're all
Yes.
out here operating from childhood wounds probably, but
Mhm.
it's like when you recognize that and you can just get super inquisitive, and when you feel triggered ask questions, when you feel like you aren't loved ask questions, like when you can really start getting more powerful and asking more powerful questions to truly understand where that person's mind is, where their thoughts are, where their actions are coming from, when you can really engage in their view of the world and how they're operating, then you can actually get to truth. Because when we
Yeah.
we operate from a
And we
space of just
do it without judgment too. I think that's a big key.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's a
Yeah.
huge piece because a lot of people won't feel comfortable sharing their truth out of fear that it's going to have them lose love, be judged, be rejected. But when you can get more curious and you can be more less judgmental and more accepting and see the person you're with as an actual individual sovereign soul that is here on their own journey, on their own walk. It's not your job to awaken people. It's not your job to try and get them to be something for you so that you can be something. It's not your job to heal them, to guide them when you can just say that all of that's actually your own job and your own space and you come to us for guidance.
Mhm.
Like you hire somebody, you work with somebody that's a mentor that can see these things, that can call these out in you to get you to come back into that lighthouse energy within yourself, to
Mhm.
be more sovereign yourself, to be more embodied in your consciousness and your growth and your leadership within yourself. Then you're going to allow yourself to see this person and operate from this way
Mhm.
that there is actual space for polarity and deep connection because you're not fighting each other's wounds, because you're not trying to get something from them so you feel something. And when we started doing that more effectively, and I was able to actually see you for your gifts, see you where you were, speak empowerment into you, not just criticism, like these things transformed our relationship, and it
100%.
will any relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's like you said, your job and your only job is to lead yourself at the highest level. Like, when I learned that, I thought my job was to try to do all the things I needed to do to make sure I was lovable and acceptable enough. And when I got down to the brass tacks, it was like, how can I love the man I'm being every day?
Yeah. Yeah.
I love. I mean, and that's a very important. Like, how can I love the man? I love the man I was being every day, not Jocelyn. Because if I didn't love the man, there is no way in fucking hell Jocelyn's going to even get close to sniffing love or appreciation or respect or trust or desire or anything. And so I had to be, and the a quote I always say is, I had to be selfish in the way I love myself, I love myself, I trusted myself, so I could be selfless in the way I loved her. And
Yeah,
I
because
got
at the
really good at that, and I got really good at that,
yeah.
and I got really good, and I'm still working on a lot of it. Like, every day is a work in progress for us, which
Mhm.
is important, and we keep evolving, we keep getting curious, we keep learning
Mhm.
each other because we keep expanding. Like, who we were 3 years ago, I don't even remember that guy. Like, I don't
Yeah.
remember that woman,
Yeah.
and now we're on 2 totally different, like, we're at different planes, and it was like this idea that we allowed ourselves to lead ourselves individually, which then allowed us to lead the relationship into this upward trajectory that made the relationship blow up, instead of, we were so busy trying to get each other to do something that the relationship kept sinking to the level of our own self leadership.
Yeah, and that's like I know there's this whole thing out there of like, you know, being in a healthy relationship and like it loving you back to wholeness within yourself and like being more safe and not as toxic and all these things, and there's truth to that to a degree.
Yeah.
But and like you were saying, like you had to love yourself. And there's truth to that to a degree. Now, I could love you and I could see you in your power and I could see you sometimes at a higher like power than you obviously operated from. I could
Yes.
see your potential. And we can do this. Like a lot of us women, like we see the potential and we fall in love with the potential, right? And it's like, I see them. Like I can see that they're going to be this, or they could be this, or they could come into this. And so we operate from that place, but it winds up being this energetic hamster wheel that doesn't actually create what you're desiring for it to create. And to really, truly have someone rise in their potential is to become the lighthouse of your own potential, is to
Mm.
be the embodied leader of your own stuff and your own self. And that is the only ripple that can happen. It's just like as a parent. Like I can sit here and I can teach my kids and I can preach at my kids and I can tell them right and wrong and I can tell them what they need to do and I can tell them who they need to be and I can try and guide them and try and awaken them to all the things of life that they need to know. But if they're watching my mouth talk And it sounds like great concepts, but they watch me and they see me not be a leader of my own self in the things I'm
Yeah,
preaching and talking
man.
about. If they like if they don't feel that energy, I could tell my daughter all day, like, you gotta be confident and you gotta have self-worth and you gotta lead yourself this way and do
Yeah,
this and do that. And then if I don't show her that I am being that person, my words are just air,
yeah,
and she can hear them, but the only real impact that I have on her, on anyone in my life, whether it be my clients, whether it be you, whether it be family, whether it be friends, the only real true ripple of impact and guidance and leadership that I have is when I embody it completely.
yes,
And I am the
100%.
byproduct of what I'm preaching and teaching.
I
And
mean, parenting has been like the great I mean, obviously this relationship, but parenting's been the greatest example of that for us, I think,
yeah. Mhm.
because when we make suggestions toward our kids, we only make suggestions from things that we're actually being and doing every day. Right. And I say this to my guys all the time. Don't tell your kids what to eat if you're looking 75 pounds overweight. Just don't even open your mouth because they just look at you like you're crazy. Don't tell them not to drink if you're killing a six pack there in front of them. Right.
Mhm.
Don't have these conversations of being of what you want your kids to be if you can't be it. Just be the thing and let them watch. They will follow. They will get on board. You won't have to say don't. They will just do because that's what they see as the example of success, of fulfillment, of happiness, of leadership, of like consciousness. If you show them the opposite, they're going to do exactly what you do. And
Yep.
it's the wildest thing. And it's the same way in our relationship. When you started pouring love into me, I in who I was, I felt comfortable being me.
Mhm.
Like, like, and when you were like, "Hey, I got shit to work on." Like, you said that to me about yourself, and I'm like, "Oh, shit, I got shit to work on." Like, if this person that I hold up here is saying that, then I know for a fact, like, my ass down here has got some shit to work on. And
And at
so it
the
was
end of
like
the
this
day,
six.
like, that was just a construct that you
Yeah,
held. It's not actually a reality,
not a
right?
reality, but yeah.
Every human walking this planet has equal sovereign power. And so it's like
Yeah,
coming into that truth. And that's what we stand in our coaching. That's why we operate the way that we do. And being able to hold that lighthouse energy and to be able to embody what you know, what you understand from a consciousness level, to be able to see where your shadows and your subconscious identity are running the show and lead yourself, you then activate people to truly rise in your presence. But when you're being
yes.
the awakener, the teachy preachy person, the one trying to move so that you're protected, the one trying to move from your wounds so that people can trust you, the one trying to navigate situations energetically so that you feel okay, that is ultimately not embodied self leadership of what you're saying you know
Uh,
consciously.
yeah, and that's when men and women both get out of integrity really fast.
Hmm.
Is like they say a lot of shit with their mouth and they do very little shit with their feet. And
But it's
that's a
not
fast way to
conscious.
that's no, it's not a concept, but that's a fast way to break up a relationship too. Like to disconnect the relationship, say a lot of shit and don't do a lot to back it up.
Yep.
Men, I suggest don't do that because trust be broken just like that. The same way for women. Like,
Yep.
and we've gotten to that point where we both are able to call each other like, "Hey, you're out of integrity. You're saying a lot of things, but nothing's happening." But I had to grow a voice within me. I had to feel comfortable within myself that I can actually tell this beautiful queen over here, like, "Hey, you should stink sometimes." You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I welcome that. And
Yeah.
so many powerful conscious women, powerful badass women, they welcome to be able to trust a masculine man to lead and call them out. Not from a
Yeah.
space of like control, not from a space of
No.
demeaning, not from a space of put down, but like actually be at the same level that they are enough to grow within the relationship where they're not always the one that's being the growth activator, and to
Yes.
be able to trust the masculine that she can grow through the lens of his leadership. And So
Yes.
there is a dynamic that most women desire to be in that space, because they don't actually want to, in the feminine, they don't actually want to be the controller, the energetic
No.
powerhouse in that way. They want to be able to be in their own power, and it's rise in their own conscious queen energy, but like, but also be able to have a conscious king next to him that's like, okay, I trust that guy. And
Yes.
so, it's a dual responsibility. And I always say, like, it's the moment that you can step into your power instead of your potential projector to other people, and not see how looking in the mirror is the most powerful thing you can do when you're in this dynamic. That's where power truly lies. And
Yes.
we can be on a pedestal, we can be the higher conscious one, we can be the one who's done more work, we can be and speak all the things, but if you're not leading yourself and you're not embodied in this energy and you're operating from these still shadow wounded places where you're a match for it, you're on a hamster wheel. And the moment that you decide that you're going to do the actual work, not do the work like you're more conscious and you have more information and you have more things you can speak about and you can see more things, but do the work where you're actually an embodiment of this, the work, then that is when you actually become the most powerful version of yourself. That is when you
Mhm.
start changing your reality. That is when your relationship rises. That is when you start making money and more impact in your purpose. That's when you become a better parent. That's when you become a better leader of
Mhm.
yourself
Yeah.
first and foremost. And then it has a ripple effect in your life.
And I think it's important too to like define embodiment because that word gets tossed around a lot, right? You need to be an embodiment. And people are like, oh, yeah, embodiment. Nobody tells you what that means. They just say embodiment. Embodiment just means like I take what I learn and I use it, pieces of it to build myself into a bigger version of me. And I walk that thing every day. Like it's just in me and I operate from that capacity. A lot of people take knowledge, but they never let it go in them. Goes in their head and in one ear and out the other. They could spit it out their mouth, spit it out here. They could hear like, yeah, yeah, ego, 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 ego. But like, how do you become the lighthouse leader, like you always say? And like, I take that information in. It might be two pieces of things I want to work on, and then make that part of the soul and operate from that capacity.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with that. I think embodiment is it's multifaceted, but
Yeah,
there's a space where it's like you become what you're most aligned in your authentic self. You become the embodiment of the work is I embody what I preach and teach. I
yeah,
am the I am the energetic leader of that. I am that. I am at the identity level, the consciousness level, and the patterns and programming and the way that I operate of the embodiment of what I'm saying.
yeah.
And integral with my word of what I'm saying. If I'm saying it to you, that means I'm done it to me. It's like it's like me telling JC, our daughter, our 15-year-old. It would be like me telling her to go handle this situation in a certain way and how she communicates it and how she leads herself. Then I have to look at myself and say, did I just handle my situation that way?
Mhm. Yeah,
If I did, I'm embodied in what I'm saying. I have the embodiment because I was it. I was being it. The
yeah,
embodiment is the beingness of
yeah,
what you're saying and teaching and preaching, the things that you're conscious of, the things that
yeah.
you've done the work around. Are you being that? Or is it just conscious knowledge that you can have awareness of, you can have consciousness of, you can speak it out of your mouth, but are you actually being
Mhm.
that? And that is the embodiment, is when you are being in action, you're being in identity, you're being in leadership of what you know and what you would give advice in and what you would talk about to other people. Like what I would tell JC to do, if I'm teaching and preaching at her to do something, but I'm over here doing the complete opposite, I'm not embodied in what I'm saying. I'm
No.
literally just projecting whatever I know and the knowledge I have. If I'm over here and telling you that, oh, like you're showing up this way and you're being this, and there's been many times where you're like, yeah, but weren't you just doing that yesterday? Like, look how you just did this yesterday. And it's like, yeah, it's really easy to project
Yeah.
something that we're conscious of or that we know, but when you go look in that damn mirror, it don't lie. And when you
No,
look in
it
that
don't.
mirror, you're like, am I an embodiment of what I'm actually saying here? Because we can
Yeah.
be real smart. You can be real smart. You can be real conscious. But if you're not actually embodied in what you're preaching and teaching, you're just a really great, yapper.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just a good, like, facilitator of information that you're gaining from other people. And I
Yeah,
used to be
and
that
a
guy.
projector of trying to get other people to do what you want them to do so that then you feel some kind of way. When
Yeah, I
really
used
you just
to
need to make yourself feel that way and
yeah.
then you actually are an embodiment of a leader to those people.
I used to be the facilitator of all the knowledge in the world. I had more knowledge than I had embodiment by far. I could tell you every quote from about every person on the
Yeah.
planet
Yeah.
and know it left and right, but never knew what it meant about me, or
Right.
never knew why I wasn't having the life that these people were having. It was because I never took it and actually became it and changed my identity and become the man who was the thing.
Yeah, you're really great at telling other people who, what, how. You're very educated, very conscious, but lacking, actually being what you were preaching. And
Yeah,
that is embodiment. You are being what you were saying. You're being the work. You're
yeah,
being all the things you've consumed. Like I can sit
yes,
here and say, oh, this is how you should do this and this is what you should, even with clients, like in our purpose. It's like I can sit here and coach somebody and easily see them and tell them and guide them on what they should be doing. I don't even love
yeah,
shoulds, right? But it's like within their own alignment, what
yeah.
they know for fact of true to be what they should be doing. But if I'm over here and I'm like holding them accountable to moving in that way, I have to ask myself, am I to be a great coach, to be a great guide, a mentor? I have to ask myself, is the things I'm teaching them, is the things that I'm activating in them and holding them accountable to do, am I doing that myself? Because if not, what business do I have truly being a coach and guide for them? And that's not to say you have to be perfection, but
No,
there's so many times when we will launch a new program or we will go to teach something new, and damn if that freaking week before something comes in that's like, are you embodied in this? Like, are
bullshit
you
of the bullshit right there, boy. You want to
operating
piss
in
me
this way?
off? You want to piss me off? That'll piss me off. Like, all right, God, I see what's going on. Just want to make sure. He just like, you sure? Like, you good? Are you
That's
good? Are y'all
ultimately that's
good?
why our live programs are so powerful, because we literally just experienced something that we can give examples in because we had to lead ourselves through it. Like
Hmm.
we are put through the fire and the ringer right before we're about to teach a concept that we understand, that we know, that even we have layers of, but it's like God's like, okay, you're about to teach this concept, let's take it to another level. Like, let's see if you're really embodied in this. And 9 times out of 10, we'll see it and we'll be like, I got you. Like,
Yeah,
I
all
got
right.
you.
Yeah, I see you, little sneaky sneak. I got you. Just playing the game, and I'll even like last year. I launched a ton of program. I built a lot of courses, and every time I built one, some shit would come in. And Josh was like, "Yeah, are you good? Like, you sure you want to teach this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want to teach this." Well, you need to make sure you got it, and that's the way it was. Like, you just got to make sure, like, in the same way when you're doing it with your kids or with your friends or in your business or wherever, with your spouse, with your family, everything that you say you want out of people, are you it?
Hmm.
Are you it? Everything you say out of your business, are you it? And if you're
Yep.
not, then how can you look in the mirror to bring yourself in alignment with it before you ask it to change?
Yep. And I think that's a wrap.
I did too.
That's a final point. So if you feel like you're the more conscious one in your relationship, in your friendships, in your family, I invite you to not only be the more conscious one, but be the most embodied, self-led lighthouse one. Because in that you can truly have impact. You can truly make a difference in your own life and you attract different. You're on a whole different frequency because it's not about being conscious necessarily. It's about, are you completely embodied in your consciousness? And
Yes.
that's when your life and your external reality actually change and shift. And this is what we
Absolutely.
do. So if you
Yeah.
want a guide, if you want a coach, if you want a leader that gets it, then check the notes for this podcast. Reach out. We have a couple of offers coming up. I have a couple of private coaching spots. I know you have some coming up available.
Yeah.
And we have some ongoing group programs that are going to be next level, the Conscious Queens and the Conscious Kings. And
Ooh,
this is going to
yeah.
be a space to rise not only
That's
into a
the
conscious woman, not only into a conscious man, but we're taking it to the next level of embodied leadership to become a queen and king in your own life. So
mhm.
reach out. We love you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye, guys.